Boars in the wild are vicious monsters that live in the forest. They have tusks that are razor-sharp, muscular bodies, and their destructive capability is terrifying. They make their way down into the agricultural regions of Mississippi, where they wreak havoc on the crops and cause damage that is worth thousands of dollars overnight. To make matters even worse, they are carriers of illnesses that pose a hazard to cattle as well as the wider ecology. It was no longer possible for us to look on. We were required to take action. This marked the beginning of the fight to restore our land. The question that still has to be answered is whether or not we will be able to put an end to this swarm of monsters before it is too late. As soon as they arrived at the rendezvous spot, the squad made sure that all of their guns and equipment were in working order. They did not waste any time and immediately dispersed themselves, carefully inspecting every nook and cranny, fully aware that danger may be hiding in any corner. After 15 minutes of eerie calm, the sound of hunting hounds reverberated from the thickets, indicating the location of the prey. I focused my eyes intently, looking for even the tiniest movement in the bushes that were in front of me. As it made its way through the underbrush, the wild boar was seen there. As soon as I raised my gun, I took aim, and then I fired, without any hesitation. After collapsing, the boar had no opportunity of escaping the situation. Immediately following that meeting, we climbed further up the mountain, which is a common hiding place for wild boars. After hearing the dogs barking frantically from within the brush, I made a beeline for the source of the sound. As the prey got closer, the barking became more intense. I was just as quick as a bolt of lightning as a wild boar suddenly sprang out of its hiding place. It was a resounding shot that rang out. After first stumbling, the boar eventually fell to the ground. A squad had been stationed in the thick undergrowth in order to prevent any escape routes from being used. It appeared as though they were likewise getting closer to the target. When the hunting dogs pursued a wild boar with unrelenting determination, the animal eventually became weary and was totally surrounded. That was the case. As for the rest, it was almost too simple. With a single clean shot, the game was over. The others were not present with me. I walked by myself, quietly making my way deeper into the forest, looking for any indications of wild boars that had escaped from the area. The sound reverberated in the far distance. It sounded like someone was walking. There wasn't just one of them. There was definitely more than one of them. They were getting closer. Without giving it a second thought, I spontaneously raised my weapon and fired the shot without any hesitation. I have one target down. Due to the fact that wild boars are crafty animals, our crew never ever allowed ourselves to relax our guard for even a single second. Suddenly, a rustling sound emanated from a bush that was located nearby. In the instant that the target appeared, he made the most of the opportunity and fired a shot that was accurate, thereby securing yet another impressive award. The night began to fall, and the group was making rapid progress in their search for the wild boars that were still alive. I, on the other hand, remained hidden and patiently waited for the just right opportunity. Hold tight. Something is getting closer. That silhouette is so recognizable. As quickly as I could, I raised my rifle, aimed it at the target, and pulled the trigger immediately. Each shot resulted in the death of another hog. When it comes to hunting wild boars, it's not only a chase between man and an animal. We do this as a means of shielding people, crops, and lands from the sickness and destruction that these creatures bring. The time of year for harvesting is getting closer. Every year, around this time, wild boars begin to emerge from the forest and wreak havoc on the fields in just a few nights. Many people in this area are concerned about this phenomenon because it occurs around this time. Then, we made the decision to go on a hunt. While some people were getting their firearms ready, others had their packs of hunting dogs with them. Everyone had a complete comprehension. The only thing we could do once the boars came down was to stand by and watch the crops get destroyed if we did not take action as quickly as possible. On the outskirts of the woodland, we gathered together. When they were finally set free, the pack of hunting dogs made a break for it straight away. It seems that they were much more impatient now that they were eagerly tracking the scent. We were aware that the prey had been reported as soon as we heard the sound of barking. It was Riley's responsibility to maintain a position at the peak of a somewhat gentle slope. Right at the location where a whole herd of wild boars had been seen, the herd was caught. At the bottom of the slope, the dog started driving the prey uphill in the opposite direction. It was then that a booming shot rang out, hitting the boar as the barking became increasingly loud. Not giving up, the throng continued to thrash around in a chaotic manner. Yes, the squad started to disperse in order to broaden the scope of the search. I walked forward slowly while keeping my attention on the task at hand. Instantaneously, a wild boar materialized in front of me, at a distance of approximately 3 meters. It hadn't even had a chance to respond when it fell to the ground after being hit by a precise shot. It is my hope that the subsequent interactions will proceed in the same manner. The sound of barking could be heard reverberating from the depths of the woodland. I did not hesitate before raising my weapon and pulling the trigger with complete determination. The dog's barking was temporarily muffled by the gunshot, and the boar collapsed just where it had been hiding up until that point. In spite of the fact that they had been hunting for a number of hours, the pack of dogs continued to work diligently and happily. It was because of their efforts that we were able to immediately identify another target and eliminate it with bullets that were both clean and extremely effective. There was a sense of relief that came with each good strike, for each boar that was taken down meant that there was one fewer threat to the approaching harvest season. We had to make use of GPS in order to locate the pack of dogs once the woodland had finally returned to its once quiet state. At that location, they had assembled in a single location on the opposite side of the slope. When we arrived, I was abruptly confronted by a shadowy figure that flashed before my eyes. The sound of a loud gunshot burst out in an instant. At the location, the boar fell to the ground. The golden moment is only present for a few seconds. It is for this reason that you should never let go of the trigger after you have detected signs of prey in the vicinity. During the course of my exploration of the region, I came across a narrow street that provides wild boars with an excellent opportunity to graze. I kept a firm grip on my weapon and mumbled to myself, "Let's see if we find anything here." I was hoping to find something. There was no mistaking the fact that a few minutes later, the sound of barking exploded like a blaring alarm. A boar that was completely black began coming at us. I was prepared. My gun was raised, and I went ahead and pulled the trigger without any hesitation. The gunfire reverberated across the walls of the woodland, successfully bringing an intense and dramatic confrontation to a close. The hunt had come to an end, and everyone was worn out. Nevertheless, at least the forthcoming harvest will be less likely to be threatened by anybody. The hunt had come to an end, and everyone was worn out. Nevertheless, at least the forthcoming harvest will be less likely to be threatened by anybody. In addition to its breathtaking scenery, the Ozark National Forest is renowned for the extraordinary variety of ecosystems that it contains. Nevertheless, it is also an ideal habitat for herds of wild boar, who are a group of vicious creatures that are proliferating at an uncontrolled rate. In addition to wreaking havoc on crops and causing damage to the soil, they have evolved into a persistent danger to the lives of those living in the surrounding areas. Our group made a hasty entrance into the woods at the crack of dawn, while the early mist was still hanging low in the air. I climbed into a hunting stand that had been set up a few days previously, in a stealthy manner, raised my binoculars, and studied the area that was in front of me. Suddenly, a shadowy person can be seen in the lens of the camera. In this direction, it was moving. As soon as I could, I adjusted the focus and positioned the barrel of my rifle. I pulled the trigger with the gun just as the boar came to a stop and began to show signs of running away. It will not be an easy task to dispatch of these enormous monsters. It is necessary for every member of the team to have flawless synchronization and reflexes that are lightning fast. Arlo did not pause for even a moment after I informed him about the boar that had escaped from its confinement. Immediately, he went in the direction of the intercept spot that we had determined previously. Due to the fact that his gun was already loaded with ammunition, all that was required was a single pull of the trigger, and the boar immediately collapsed. Arlo and I went further into the forest than we should have. In the midst of the immense desert, we were placed on high alert, as we heard yells coming from a variety of different spots. That is the case. A dashing beast with dark hair that appears to be quite fearless. However, Arlo, who possesses the coolness of a seasoned hunter, quickly raises his gun and points it at the fight front of him. The jungle was filled with the distinct sound of a gunshot, and with just one shot, the target fell to the ground. The rapid appearance of two more boars occurred before we had a chance to gather our breath. Even though they rushed very quickly, their fate had already been decided. The fact that 3 wild boars were killed in less than a minute was very scary. Without a shadow of a doubt, Arlo is the wild boar's worst nightmare in this forest habitat. Because we were moving into more densely populated areas, we had to rely solely on our pack of hunting dogs to locate the prey. Immediately after we heard a violent barking, the squad made a beeline for the source of the sound. Undoubtedly, a wild boar was placed in a precarious position deep amid a dense bush. Oh my God, that was a very scary situation. Then a shot rang out, but before we could fix our sights on it, it was already too late. Unexpectedly, the wild boar charged in our direction. It was fortunate that the boar was taken down shortly after my friend was hurt, but the boar was taken down, an experience that stopped my heart and demonstrated that no hunting trip is guaranteed to go without a hitch. Even the most seasoned hunters are susceptible to danger at any given moment. Immediately following that potentially hazardous encounter, we recovered our composure and swiftly began our search. I discreetly concealed myself under the camouflage and watched as the victim walked directly into a trap that was still hidden from view. A loud crack could be heard. Purely motivated by the need to survive, the boar made an attempt to flee, but it was only a few meters away when it fell. As soon as it emerged from the bushes, I did not waste any time in pulling the trigger on the firearm. Once again, we had regained the upper hand in the situation. After only 10 minutes, I was given the instruction to intercept a wild boar that was a few dozen meters ahead of me through the use of a walkie-talkie. As I hurriedly made my way to the assigned location, I firmly grasped my firearm. All the way from shooting to firing the trigger, I was more cautious this time, making sure that the boar was entirely destroyed and that there was no possibility of a counterattack in the future. It was at this point that the boars started to conceal themselves, since they had become accustomed to the presence of hunters. They were driven out of their shelters one by one despite the fact that they were being pursued by the hunting dogs with a persistent determination. In addition, we did not overlook a single opportunity, and we managed to capture the prey right up until the very last second of the day. It's possible that you've seen films of hunting in the past, but the combination of hunting and high-speed motorcycle pursuits lends a completely new level of excitement to the experience. It is not just a matter of proficiency or quickness here. Our method of combating the invading threat that is the wild boar, which continues to wreak havoc on our farmlands and the lives of the people who live in the surrounding area, is being implemented. The high-octane pursuit is about to get underway. After spending a considerable amount of time using the acute hearing of our hunting dogs to track down our target, I was finally able to locate a large wild boar that was concealed deep within a dense cornfield. Because my gut told me that it would run across a nearby dirt road, I jumped on the motorcycle and sped toward the location where it was expected to be. At just the right moment, the beast emerged. The trigger was pulled without any hesitation on my part. After slicing through the air, the bullet penetrated the thick hide of the animal. Following a series of stumbles, the boar eventually fell to the ground. This hunt came to an end. In the meantime, Garek's motorcycle was racing across the broad field in an attempt to look for another target. From a distance, he was able to see a solitary boar that was urgently trying to escape for its life. In response, he applied the brakes, slowed down, and fired a number of shots. However, the first ball that he failed to catch was simply too full. Without being deterred, Garek made a complete circuit, so blocking its escape route. The wild boar had been struck this time, as shown by the piercing squealing that could be heard in his chest. I was also moving, and I was traveling in the direction of Garek's location in the cornfields that were a maze. Suddenly, I could see it. I am seeing a sensational chase between a boar and a pack of hunting dogs that is taking place right in front of my eyes. The boar continued to charge, despite the fact that I fired a couple of shots from a distance. When I sped up, I was able to catch up with it just in time. No hesitation was shown by the beast. I was directly in the line of fire. To my good fortune, I was able to escape with a final shot that proved to be decisive before it was destroyed. Without wasting any time, the danger was eliminated. Both Garek and I were pumped up despite the fact that we had already accomplished a number of takedowns. As we ran over the endless fields, we were fueled by adrenaline, and we were looking for any indication of them somewhere. Around 5 minutes later, luck came again to the rescue. A wild boar materialized out of nowhere. Due to the fact that I had no time to squander, I quickly raised my weapon and discharged it. The swift draw was successful, and the beast fell to the ground in an instant that was crushed. We had unrivaled mobility due to the use of motorcycles, which enabled us to quickly adjust to new situations and traverse a wide range of terrain. At the moment that we received information that another boar was running away, we hurried forward in order to catch up with it on a dirt path that ran across the fields. That was the case. I managed to squeeze off a flurry of pictures as it charged out of the foliage, taken aback by shock.